Update. I think my boyfriend is lying about being in medical school. Original story. I, 26 female, have been dating Sam, 31 male, for about 4 months now. We met online, and he told me he was going to be a doctor. The first 2 months were fine, but the last 2 months I have started to feel like he hasn't been honest about several aspects of his life, the biggest being him in medical school. He used to live overseas and was in medical school there for a short time. I'm pretty sure this is true because I've seen pictures. But that was about 5 years ago. The school that he says he goes to is fairly prestigious. And I have another friend, Jason, who graduated with a medical degree from the same school. Jason has told me how difficult the program was and how he never had time for anything besides studying. Jason also said that nobody in his program worked. Sam works 40 hours a week in an office, and I've never once seen him study. He always seemed to have a completely open schedule to hang out all the time, which I thought was odd. I asked him why he never is studying. He said he doesn't need to. I was always a good test taker. I never studied a lot in college, but I still feel like medical school is a whole different ballgame. I've spent a lot of time at Sam's house, and I've never seen a single document suggesting he was in school. Textbooks, assignments, nothing. He also has let me use both of his computers, and I've never seen anything on his history or anything suggesting anything to do with school. I don't know about you guys, but when I was in school, I had papers all over my house, and my computer always had school stuff on it. A few weeks ago, we were at dinner, and I can't remember how this was brought up, but I mentioned that the human ear has 30-something bones in it. I know from high school biology that it has only 3 bones, so I said it was wrong. He said something to the effect of, "I'm a medical student. How are you going to tell me I'm wrong?" So I googled it right in front of him and showed him that I was correct, and he seemed mad. I then asked him how many bones were in the human body, and he was wrong again. I feel like this is pretty basic stuff a medical student would know, right? Even I know that. So this week I've been feeling suspicious, so I decided to prod. I asked him if I could come sit in one of his classes. I decided school doesn't do that. Fine. I asked if we could meet up on campus for lunch. I decided I couldn't come because you need a student ID to get on campus due to COVID. Fine. Then I asked to see a student ID. I decided I lost it. Then I asked him if he could send me a selfie of him in his hospital uniform. I decided he doesn't like the way he looks in a white coat. He sends me other selfies all the time. I feel like at this point he's lying, but some of my friends say I'm being paranoid. If he is lying, how should I prove it? Edit. He's not actually my boyfriend, he's just someone I've been seeing frequently. I just wrote that for the ease of the title. Felt it was worth noting that these past 6 weeks have been summer vacation, so he hasn't needed to be in class. He said he would get a new student ID when classes start. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Honey, you need to walk away. The red flags are waving in the breeze. Loudly. If he will lie about this, there's no limit to what he will lie about. Does he even work where he says he does? I've been to his office job and met his co-workers. So yes, I know he works 40 hours in an office. Let me tell you this from the perspective of someone who caught a liar. Once you catch them in a lie this big, the trust is just gone. You're always going to have it in the back of your mind that he's lying, even when he's telling the truth. Lying about being in medical school is a big lie. Yeah, this is incredibly sketchy. The empty computer and no schoolwork are the biggest concerns I have as a current university student. In my opinion, this deserves an immediate conversation involving an ultimatum. He comes clean and proves his status as a student beyond any shadow of a doubt, or you're freaking out of there. I think you know what's going to happen, and I'm really sorry in advance. Also, if you need a student ID to get on campus and lost his, how is he getting onto campus? If he's taking classes remotely, there would be no reason she couldn't sit in the room and watch/listen, so he must be going in. I've listened to this exact podcast. Seriously, this exact story. Run. Current season of Something Was Wrong. What happened to the podcast? Spoilers if you're listening. It's not finished yet, but he was totally lying, cheated on her, was controlling and abusive, got them into debt, and it sounds like the next episode will reveal how he stole her daughter. He had a second woman on his side. He made up even more ludicrous lies too. She lost her husband and kids because of him. Edited to add, she ignored everyone's warning and married him. The podcast takes place over years. And now for the update. So, the response was overwhelming and I'm glad I got confirmation on my suspicions because I felt like I was going crazy. I broke up with him over FaceTime. I didn't tell him the real reason, just gave a vague explanation about not being ready to date anybody. There are other things, in addition to my post, that I'm pretty sure he was also lying about. I didn't bring any of his lies up because honestly I feel slightly scared of a person who would lie about things like that. He didn't take it very well and sent me a barrage of texts trying to guilt trip me and also was borderline harassing me into meeting up with him. Apparently he bought me a present and was trying to force me to take it. Overall, just really gaslighty and manipulative. I eventually just stopped responding and I haven't heard anything in a few days. Hopefully never have to see or speak to him again. Thanks to you all for your response. Going forward, I'll be a lot more cautious about who I believe. Sounds like you dodged a bullet. This dude has failed in life narcissist written all over him. Read your entire story. I'm glad you're moving on. You sound extremely mature in your actions and I commend you. The gaslighting is just confirmation that you made a right decision. Also, can I just say, who logically believes that an ear has 30 bones? Coming from a physician, he was 100% lying. No one, and I mean no one, works in med school, especially the first 2 years. The most I've seen is classmates doing Uber during their 4th year in the evenings. It is impossible to have a 40-hour office job and go to med school. Even if all the classes were recorded and he would watch them when he got home, he would fail out. In med school, all my classmates were studying through the day, every day. The ones who treated med school like college failed out. The only times we would go out would be the Friday after an exam week. Yes, you heard me. Exam week. Maybe the following Saturday would be a day off. Then back to the grind. Even if he was in his 3rd or 4th year, considered the easier years, he would still have clinicals at least Monday through Friday and would not be able to hold down a job. There's a reason we're all in debt. Lol. Next story is titled, Update. My 28 female boyfriend, 32 male, told me a white lie for almost 3 years, and I'm not sure if it's a red flag. Original story. I'll try to make this as short as possible, but it's going to be long as hell because there is so much lying going on. My boyfriend and I have been dating for almost 3 years, living together for 2. We have a pretty good relationship, obviously with ups and downs, but we make it work and are happy. A little background on me / my boyfriend for context. I come from a single-parent home. My father was absent. My mother was / is by no means perfect, but she did her best with what she had. We were poor. Life was never easy for us, but we had each other. Since I was pretty young, I've wanted to pay her back someday. I've worked incredibly hard to be able to do so. I help her financially as much as I can and regularly pay her bills / send her cash. I'm also her only living child now as my brother passed away 5 years ago, which basically left me to help her. I don't care. I love my mother, and the right thing to do is to help her when she needs it. But it is stressful. This is relevant because my boyfriend described coming from a somewhat similar past, and it is something we have bonded over. Having the mutual experiences seemed to bring us closer. He told me he also helped his parents financially, and we would often vent to each other about the stress it brings. I am not one to confide in many people, so having someone I felt like actually understood me was meaningful to me. So, here is where the lies come in, and I need someone to either tell me I'm not crazy and this is messed up, or that I'm crazy and this isn't a huge deal. I'm fine with either. When we met, my boyfriend lived in a condo in a pretty swanky part of the city. I live in the US Northeast. He told me he owned that apartment / condo. I found this to be interesting / odd because he was 28 at the time, and I know this property is upwards of $650,000 on the low end, and he was in an entry-level job for only like 2 years, so the numbers just didn't really add up. Whatever, maybe he's good at saving? But then since living together, I never once saw a piece of mail for a mortgage payment, electric bill, taxes, nothing. Not for 2 whole years. Very odd. Also, when we started living together, he didn't have his room rented out in the former apartment yet, so he was still responsible for that portion of the rent. He would send a Venmo payment to his mother on the 1st of every month for his portion. I don't own property, but I can't think of a scenario where I would Venmo my mother to pay the mortgage on a property I supposedly own. Getting more odd. He would then go to his parents' house for an afternoon and come back really upset. Usually when I would ask why, it was because they were having financial problems and he needed to help them out. I totally understood this and supported him. He literally has cried on my shoulders about this many times. He tried to start a company years back and ended up getting into debt somehow. He told me his debt was $17,000 and that he paid it off. I'm confused because I met him only 2 to 3 years after this post-debt accrued/company dissolved, and it was already paid off? He told me when he moved back home after the business failed, he was $17,000 in debt and living at his parents' house working at a minimum wage job. How someone with a minimum wage job pays off that much debt in 3 years? I'll never know. We got into a fight a few weeks ago and I finally had enough and confronted him about these things. Long story short, he doesn't help his parents. They actually pay his phone bill. And this was all a lie. He doesn't own that apartment. He didn't pay off that debt from his company. He initially told me his parents helped pay it off, and then like 3 minutes later came clean and said that his business partner paid it off, so I have literally no idea what the truth is there. And if anything, in my eyes, his parents are the ones who are financially supporting him. So now, I'm dating a 31-year-old man who doesn't pay his own phone bill, was lying to me and/or completely fabricating aspects of his life for 3 years. And then when confronted about it, continued to make up lies, and then came clean about them 5 minutes later. I'm obviously concerned that he could lie for this long, about fundamentally important things like our values and so on. I sincerely thought I would marry this man. He seemed to understand me like no one else, and to be a truly caring and genuine person. Now, I'm having a hard time rationalizing actually planning a life around someone who would not only lie about their background and family, etc., but also financial aspects. Aside from that, I now can't tell what is the truth and what is a lie. I've also noticed other things he has lied about, called him out on it, and he has denied it outright to my face. I see this as a form of gaslighting, as I know I'm not wrong, but he is trying to convince me otherwise. Am I overreacting? Is this a white lie that went haywire? Or is this actually a series of complete and utter BS used to manipulate me? And also, is it insane for me to actually consider a life with this man? Any advice is appreciated. Now for the top advice before reading the update. This isn't a white lie. This is a huge web of lies in which has built the foundations of your relationship. I would forever be wondering what else is lied about. Get out! This is the issue for me. It honestly wouldn't be as big of a deal if this wasn't like a huge part of our relationship. The bonding and confiding in one another, I mean. I come from a harsh background, and I had a difficult life growing up, and it was very special to me to have someone who I thought could at least mildly understand. I've also told him so many painful and personal things while he was lying to me non-stop apparently. I mean, you still don't even know what he was coming back from his parents so upset about, do you? My guess is that his parents pay a lot more than his phone bill, and they're either trying to wean him off, which he's having tantrums about, or simply declining to throw even more money at him, which he's having tantrums about. None of these are white lies. White lies are harmless lies that make social interactions go smoother. This is a man who's had no problems lying to you for 3 years about his financial situation, and who only came clean because you're not an idiot and realized the numbers didn't add up. If you hadn't questioned it, how long would he have kept lying to you? And you already know this isn't just a white lie that got out of control. You say in your post that he lies to your face about other things. So no, this isn't a small issue. You're dating a guy who literally lies to you all the time about everything, including things that really affect you and your future. So yes, I think it is insane that you're still considering life with this man. And now for the update. My previous post got more attention than expected, so I figured I'd update. Well, it's over. As many of you suggested, I couldn't possibly build my life around someone who lied so pathologically. I initially agreed to work into a relationship, provided that my ex get therapy to work through why I felt compelled to lie about so many aspects of his life. I also requested that he come clean to his parents, my parents, and anyone else he lied to or embellished the truth to. He agreed to this, and seemed genuinely interested in working on things himself. I really wanted it to work out, and was willing to accept that maybe he was just wildly insecure, / had some attachment issues or something that caused him to act this way. I waited 4 months for the therapy and confessions to happen, and they never did. Not surprisingly. For those of you who were confused about how I didn't know he did not own this apartment for so long / thought I had never met his parents, I had met them many times. But to be honest, they're pretty cold people who I never really connected with that much, and was definitely not comfortable enough to be like, hey, is your son a pathological liar or is all of this true? On top of that, he also told a lot of these lies to his parents as well, so they wouldn't have been keen to what I was talking about anyway. It got to the point where basically anything that came out of his mouth seemed like a lie or at least a half-truth to me. Also, I lost respect for someone who could lie so easily and then not even feel guilty enough or any remorse to come clean about it. I'm pretty honest, almost to a fault. So the cognitive dissonance there that occurred from being with someone who had basically opposite values from me was tough. I'm sure there were a lot of other things he was hiding, but I don't even care. I've been single and living alone for a week, and to be frank, I'm killing it. I'm now responsible for 100% of my rent, and I barely have any savings left. But I still feel like a giant weight has lifted off my shoulders. Crazy how that works. I want to thank all of the people who gave me the hard truth straight up and encouraged me to leave. Even though it was all coming from internet strangers, it still helps to hear people tell you that you deserve more than what you're getting. I'm so happy. And I must be giving off a much better vibe because I've already had 2 dates and been asked for my number a handful of times. I'm a server at a restaurant, lol. I sound like a cocky a-hole, but god does it feel good to remember you're not as worthless as someone made you feel. Thanks, Reddit. And if any of you are in a relationship with someone who is like this, GTFO and don't look back. I sound like a cocky a-hole, but god does it feel good to remember you're not as worthless as someone made you feel. Not even a little bit. I'm so happy for you. Also, you should be proud of yourself. I agree with this so much, and Opie said it so perfectly too. You are amazing and strong and empathetic and kind and loving and honest, Opie. And now you're happier and confident too. That likely shines through when you talk to people, and only enhances what I can pretty much guarantee is your natural beauty. Of course you're killing it. Of course you're getting numbers and dates. You freaking rock, my friend, and you got this. Even though I don't know you personally, I'm very proud of you. BRB, crying. But seriously, thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words. I remember the story. I'm glad you broke up with him. You deserve better. Thank you. It's hard right now, but I feel better every day. I remember your post. It completely boggled my mind how this man could spin such a massive web of lies. And they were not even close to being white lies. Good for you. Looking back, I'm dying laughing at myself calling them white lies. Like, girl, what? But happy got out sooner rather than later. Thank you. Am I the a-hole for siding with my wife when she refused to let my son install the lock his mom got him for his room? I married my current wife 6 years ago. She has a 14-year-old son and I have a 16-year-old son from a previous marriage. We normally don't deal with a ton of issues as a blended family. My stepson, Joshua, is nice to everyone and likes sharing a lot. It's his way of forming strong bonds. My son, Scotty, however, is the complete opposite. He hates sharing and is very private. He takes offense to his brother going to his room and borrowing stuff from him. He hates that Joshua does it frequently, but my wife and I thought it was completely normal as long as Joshua returns everything later. Scotty started complaining about it openly lately, saying Joshua's gone too far with his behavior, taking stuff constantly without permission. My wife and I came up with a solution, which was getting Scotty safe to store his valuable possessions. But Scotty said this wasn't enough since he has tons of stuff and can't put it all in safe. It all came to a head last week when Joshua took Scotty's Lego collection to take pictures of it outside house. It accidentally broke a couple of pieces. Scotty blew up and got his mom involved. My ex-wife then bought and sent him a lock to install in his bedroom door the same day, which got my wife go mad, calling her disrespectful and overstepping to send locks over to our house. They had a verbal fight on the phone and I returned home to see my wife arguing with Scotty after he refused to return the lock. I asked what the heck was going on, and my wife said Scotty was expecting her to let him install the lock his mom sent to our house. She said neither boy is allowed to have locks. Scotty said he was done with Joshua taking and breaking his stuff, and begged me to say something, and convinced my wife to let him keep the lock. But I told him my wife was right, and that it was disrespectful of his mom to send a lock to our house. Scotty said if we're so against his mom getting him a lock, then I should get him one instead. But I refused, since my wife said neither boy is allowed a lock, so it's not like Joshua has a lock and Scotty doesn't. Scotty threw a fit, calling me terrible, and that he can't wait to move out and be done with our nonsense. We had Joshua apologize, but still Scotty isn't having it. My former in-laws argued that I was being unfair to Scotty after we complained to them, and told me to let him keep the lock and not side with my wife and her son. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Yes, you're the a-hole. I have news for you. Joshua is not nice to everyone. Being nice includes respecting other people's belongings and their privacy, but he's not doing that with your son. He invades Scotty's privacy, takes his stuff without permission, and apparently damages some of it. That's not sharing, for Pete's sake. That is taking without permission. We have a word for that, and it's not sharing. You are the problem here. You do nothing to correct Joshua's bad behavior or support Scotty in setting entirely reasonable boundaries for his privacy. You obviously favor your stepson and have zero respect for Scotty's need for privacy and security that his things belongs to him. Your ex was right on to send him a lock. Thank goodness she's looking out for his concerns, since you won't, and your a-hole wife doesn't think it matters. Fun fact, nice people typically don't steal. Fun fact too, taking without asking is stealing. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Poor Scotty. No privacy to one parent who doesn't stand up for him. If I was him, I'll move out. Don't worry, that's coming really soon. Part 2. My son moved out and doesn't want to talk to me. It says I'm the a-hole. But I just wanted to teach him sharing and completely disregard his boundaries and privacy. His mom shouldn't have gotten him a lock for your house without discussing this with you first. It's an adult issue that the child is now in the middle of, and he is going to resent you for it. You shouldn't let your wife get so explosive and make decisions about parenting without you, especially considering there is another parent in the situation. You should have been able to tell Scotty that she and you have to speak about this, because his mom did not mention this to either of you. At the end of the day, the lock should go on Scotty's door. He feels disrespected, and like he has no place he can go to be safe. With that being said, you can make a rule. If it's a lock with a key as opposed to one you can open with a coin, you, his father, will need to have a copy of the key as well, in case of any emergencies. As well, you will need to emphasize to him that he is not to have his room locked all hours of the day when he is in there. Set boundaries with your son and explain to his mother that she overstepped, and to please discuss this next time. What's stopping his wife from taking that key and unlocking the door for her son to resume stealing when Scotty is at his mom's or away? She can't be trusted to respect boundaries, and Obi has proved he has no backbone when it comes to her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my wife parent my daughter? My wife and I, both 38, married a year ago after dating for 2. I have a girl from a previous marriage, Zoe, 15, and wife has a son, Saul, 16. My wife comes from a Mexican, deeply religious family. I'm an atheist, and so is my ex-wife. That means that we don't force any religion upon Zoe, but if she feels drawn to any of them, then we're more than okay with letting her find her own spirituality. My wife feels different. She has raised Saul to be Catholic, and my stepson has told her that as soon as he turns 18, religion is over for him, and that every time my wife tries to bring him closer to our God, it only draws her further away. I've tried to talk to my wife, but she refuses to listen, and claims that Saul is her son, so the final decision comes from her and her family, not me. I had no other choice but to back off. But then my wife started to make some remarks about Zoe not being close to God, and that we had to do something to save her. I said that my ex and I decided to let her do her thing in that matter long ago, and that my daughter wasn't damned in any way. Recently, Zoe got a boyfriend, and my wife is pretty much against the matter. She has tried to tell her that she's too young, that she shouldn't be doing that, because in the eyes of God, she was getting strained. Zoe tries to be polite most of the time, but told me that my wife was being misogynistic and that she feels disrespected. Every time that happens, I cut my wife off. Things blew up when my wife found out that Zoe wasn't pill. I was outside with Saul fixing my bike when I heard her yelling at Zoe. We both got in and I saw my daughter on the couch crying. My wife was going at her pretty hard. She called my kids some pretty nasty choice words and called me an a-hole parent for letting my daughter sin so young. But the thing is that Zoe's on a pill for something regarding her period, and not because she's sexually active. Her mom took her to the doctor and told me a few weeks ago. Zoe ran to her room and my wife asked me why I never told her, and I said that I didn't think it needed to because it was my daughter's privacy. She said that I'm not letting her parent my daughter, but I told her that as long as she tries to force religion on a kid, parenting is not a choice. Now her family's at me for letting my daughter take the pill and that it's only an excuse to sleep with his boyfriend. They said that she has to deal with her period naturally, but I don't agree. I am going to give a judgment for this question. Not a hole. You should support your daughter. She's old enough to know her own mind about religion. If the doctor prescribes her the pill for period reasons, that is no business of your wife and certainly not of your in-laws. She's old enough to have medical privacy. But dude, you're a total a-hole for marrying this woman. How did you not have a conversation about religion and about how much input you get into raising each other's kids? These are two of the biggest topics any marriage will face, and you seem to be completely shocked that your wife has gone down this path. I have a feeling you blew through a ton of red flags on the way to the altar. Not today, home. She said Saul is her son, so the final decision comes from her and her family, not me. So by her own logic, she needs to back off your daughter. Honestly, after she was shouting at your daughter, I would have left her. Maybe not for good, but until she got her act together, and probably some therapy. I drove Zoe to her mother, but I didn't want to leave Saul alone with her, so I stayed. I can't take him with me, so I'm doing the best I can for both kids. Everyone sucks here. You entered into a marriage with major incompatibility issues. Now it's negatively affecting your daughter. Well done. People with different religious beliefs and practices can 100% be in committed relationships together, as long as they respect each other's beliefs. From the way it sounds, Opie and his wife have been more than fine together for quite a while, and his wife's attitude has gradually become more disrespectful, with a sudden and full-on lurch into screaming at his daughter over it. Opie isn't the a-hole for that, but with the way his wife is acting now, he needs to consider his options for protecting his daughter. Not the a-hole. Perhaps they can. However, it isn't the case in this scenario. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for punishing my daughter this way for what she told her blind dad? My husband Rod, 52 male, is legally blind. He is not completely blind, but close. It's not a genetic issue, but a brain injury that happened when he was a baby. Rod is completely independent, but needs a little bit of help for reading small letters, cooking, typing on a computer, etc. Rod, in my opinion, is a great father and husband. My daughter Raina, 15 female, has always been a little resentful of Rod. Growing up, she didn't have the normal father-daughter experience. Raina's always been into sports, but because of Rod's incapacity to engage in physical activity that involves coordination, they were never able to bond over that, and Raina never forgave Rod for it. My husband feels especially guilty about this. Raina is going through her angsty teenager phase. She has been acting out, is rude with everyone, especially my husband. Raina likes upsetting Rod, and he never defends himself, so he's the perfect victim. We were going in our first family outing since the global panini started. To go out, Rod uses this big, chunky glasses that makes his eyes look huge, almost like a caricature. My husband is super insecure of his appearance when he uses them, and our family knows it. My daughter comes downstairs, and with the most offended tone of voice she says, "Oh my god, Dad! Are you trying to embarrass me? Your eyes look horrendous with those glasses on." I was pissed. I canceled the outing and told her to go to her room and to not come out until dinner time. Raina is big into her appearance. She wears colored, graduated contacts because, ironically, she needs to wear glasses, but she hates wearing them. She isn't uncomfortable wearing them or gets any headaches. She just doesn't like how she looks with glasses on. As a punishment, Raina will not be allowed to wear contacts for a month. I told Raina about her punishment and she is tremendously mad at me. She has a party in a week, and since the punishment is for a month, Raina will attend a party with glasses on. She's also returning back to in-person classes, so she will attend school wearing glasses. She says that she will apologize to Rod and will never disrespect him again, but I don't believe her. Rod chimed in and said that maybe the punishment is way too harsh, but I don't think so. Raina then called me names and locked herself in her bedroom. Rod says that I'm being way too hard on Raina and bordering a-hole territory, which is why I'm here. Now for the top comments. This seems like a proportionate reaction to me. She intentionally made a hurtful comment about someone's appearance. As punishment, she is not permitted to use something that enhances her appearance to herself, but she will still be able to function normally without. Not the a-hole. She's going to feel absolutely terrible about this as an adult, unless she's a narcissist. I wonder what the right way is to navigate this behavior? She obviously is insecure, which is a valid feeling, but you just can't crap all over your appearance because you're insecure. Maybe talk therapy, Opie? Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I'm sorry, but this is really good for you to teach your daughter a lesson because she should not be disrespecting her father. If you let her get away with something like this, she'll think it's fine to do it in the future. Good on you for teaching your daughter morals and respect. Everyone sucks here. Taking away contacts, something she needs in order to see and function, is a harsh punishment. She should certainly be punished, but I think a better punishment is needed. Perhaps having her do volunteer work for people who are blind, or working with those who are going blind. It may open her up to the fact that she's lucky her father can see something rather than nothing, and how most people would kill to wear Coke bottle glasses as opposed to being totally blind. She has options. She can wear her glasses. She can then get an idea of how her dad feels. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not making sure my ex knew the names of our kids' teachers? My ex, 35 male, and I, 36 female, divorced last year. In the beginning, we were pretty civil. Things have changed. It is pretty hostile with me. We have 2 kids together. I have primary custody of our kids and have them about 75% of the time. The decree states the kids are to go to school in the zone based in my residence. Since I had moved out after our divorce, I'm in a new school zone. I have made him aware over the summer that I need to follow the decree and transfer. He was very against this. Ultimately, it's my decision, but I try to get his input before decisions are made. I made sure the kids were okay with this transition to a new school, then registered them for school. I texted him to tell him they were now registered for the new school. No response. The next day, the school had a meet the teacher night. I texted him the teacher's name. No response. One of our daughters wanted a pink streak in her hair. I texted him to ask if he was okay with that. No response. There were a few other texts I sent with no response from him. I thought this was so bizarre because pretty much all summer he's been harassing me. Because of this, I have retained a lawyer to do a modification so a judge makes us use a parenting app to text. It should limit the harassment and horrible texts. Morning of the first day of school came and I was getting the kids ready for school. My phone was on Do Not Disturb. Checked the time and I had 17 missed calls from 7 a.m. to 7:25. Then he called again. I told him I'm doing their hair, but I'll put you on speaker. He starts berating me, telling me I ruined this special moment for him. But he wanted to see them off. He made it seem to the kids that I intentionally left him out of loop. Even though our homes are in different school zones, he lives close. I told him we are leaving for school in 10 minutes, and he can meet us there. We hung up. I texted him the teachers' names again. He didn't show up. Later, I got many awful texts. He said I messed up his chance to see them off. He told me he needs to take custody of the kids for what I've done. He asked why he waited until the morning of the first day of school to make arrangements with me. I decided he blocked me because I called his new girlfriend's son a friend of our kids instead of brother. My kids had never said brother, but call him a BFF. He said I disrespected him and his family and this was my punishment. Him blocking me is like #goals because I know the kids need contact with him. But it was nice those few days not hearing from him. I feel like this is completely on him. Had he not blocked me, he would have received important texts regarding the kids and information on their new school and teachers' names. He also could have made arrangements the night prior after he was done punishing me. Lol. All he did was punish himself and his children. What if there had been an emergency? I could be blinded by my frustrations with him, but I need to know. Am I the a-hole? Man, you need to bring this up with a judge again. He legit is just harassing you. This type of attitude should warrant some attention from the judge. Not the a-hole, by the way. We have court in a couple weeks. This is just one of many examples where I'm pretty sure I'm in the right, but I could absolutely be blinded by my disdain for him. My attorney thinks I'm not the a-hole. He clearly is the a-hole. Also, he knew you were on speakerphone and berated you in front of your children. This seems one-sided as hell, and you're painting yourself as a victim and innocent person. Everything was good. Then, unexplained event, and now he's hostile. I told my children about changing schools, never confirmed they agreed or wanted to, and finished with, ultimately it's my choice. Screw him, but I'm kind enough to let him partake. Through your writing, it looks like your ex just randomly changed attitude, became awful, whatever, without any reason whatsoever. By the way, telling someone they messed up isn't mistreatment. Calling about your children isn't harassment. You really feel like the typical divorcee or ex. And to hell with gender here. Just being petty and making issues for the sake of it. Also, yes, he berated you over the phone. Put that on speaker though. Couldn't you have done better than manipulate the situation to your advantage? Am I the a-hole for changing my RSVP for my sister's wedding from yes to no? My sister is getting married in January. She sent the invites last month and I RSVP'd yes. We're not close, so it was more about me being there because it's what you do than actually wanting to be there. But soon after, my husband and I regretted our response. My sister has chosen the clothes for each immediate member of her and her fiancé's family to buy, and has said we will be turned away if we don't comply. My dress is $350. My husband's suit is $290. Our daughter's 6 dress $120, and our son's 4 and 1 were going to be in $80 suits. Then she informed the family on top of the cost of our clothes that she had passed on the discount for rooms so she could invite more people to the wedding. And a single room is $200 for the night. Double rooms are $300, and the family room is $500. And that she already went to the effort of securing us those rooms, and we would need to pay the money for them by November 1st to secure the rooms. My husband told me she was crazy. That was an insane amount of money. I told her it was a lot and we couldn't afford all that. She told me we had to, otherwise we will be driving 6 hours home after her wedding. My parents offered to pay for our hotel room, and then she sent us the link of the gift we must buy for her. It's $600 and can only be bought online and includes shipping, or we'd have to drive to another state to pick it up. My parents told her it was unreasonable to expect this much from all of us. They spent $800 on both their outfits, then the $300 on their room, the $500 in ours. And added to that, they were told to buy a $1,000 gift for them. She said it was reasonable to expect your family to make your special day a good one, and we should all do this for her. Then she added a jab about at least they have a reason to dress up and look nice, unlike when I got married and didn't even bother with a big day. My husband and I highly debated pulling out of the wedding entirely, and we agreed to just ignore the demands and show up anyway. But then she announced that my parents, husband and I were being put in charge of paying for their honeymoon as our contribution to the wedding, and their honeymoon package came to about $2,500. Right after that, I sent another message that our RSVP was going from a yes to a no, and we would not be able to afford all this. And since she's being so demanding of our money and insisting we would be turned away without the correct clothes on, we feel it best we are not there. It has exploded. She is furious that I'm saying I won't go to her wedding, and said changing your RSVP doesn't work, it is wrong. She's giving me and our parents hell over this. I feel bad in parts because I know I never really wanted to go in the first place, and it's making me wonder if I'm showing that and pulling out isn't the right move. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. This wedding entitlement is getting crazy. I don't know where people get the nerve to demand a ton of money from others. Her fiancé's family had a pretty huge demand on them too. I was blown away. It doesn't surprise me too much from her, but I never got the idea he was that demanding. Not stay home. I'm kinda hoping someone films this wedding and it becomes a viral YouTube bridezilla hot mess, but you can enjoy from the safe comfort of your home. The terms of your acceptance have changed. I'd politely reply that unfortunately you'll no longer be able to attend as you're not able to meet her vision of her day. Send her a lovely card and a gift of your choosing, and in your budget on the day, and leave it there. A wedding does not make a marriage. A honeymoon does not make a marriage. Spending lots of money does not make a marriage. Maybe you can have a small family dinner when she's back from her honeymoon to celebrate, and so she can share photos, etc. You're more generous than I would be. They'd just receive a card from me, nothing more. The sense of entitlement, my god. She legit says that you have to buy her a $600 gift, and then thinks you're going to pay for the honeymoon? Plus more than $1,000 in wardrobe expenses. To call her deluded is an insult to the deluded. Don't second-guess yourself, and look after your family. As we all know, that money is better spent on things other than your sister's honeymoon and suits for toddlers. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for demanding my sister's husband to pay for my girlfriend's dress that he ruined at his wedding? My 23 male sister, female 26, recently got married to one of those it's just a prank bro guys. The guy's hysterical. He laughs at any and everything that he lays eyes on. He jokes, teases, makes fun, and pulls very, very nasty and cruel pranks all the time. It's like he has no filter. Some said he's mentally ill, especially after he started telling jokes at his own father's funeral, and almost caused my sister to get injured from his count the stairs prank. Me and the family got our fair share of his ridiculous pranking campaign, and we've had enough. But to him, it's not enough apparently. The kids love him and say he's fun, so that's one positive thing about him. And the wedding was days ago. Once he learned I was bringing my girlfriend who he teased/pranked a couple of times, he started making comments about pulling some funny pranks at the wedding. I told him I won't react well, and he can do with this info what he will. He just laughed me off, ha 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 type of laugh. Then I didn't see him till the wedding. After the ceremony, and while the guests were eating, he saw me and my girlfriend standing talking to several guests and mutual friends, and he approached us with a glass of milk in his hand. No idea why he had it. And kept commenting on me and my girlfriend. He invited me to propose to her right then, so the memory of my proposal will always be overshadowed by his wedding. Then said, "Relax, just a joke, bro." Then laughed. My girlfriend was standing next to me in her $320 dress, when my brother-in-law pointed to the left and shouted, "Look, there's a dog over there." And my girlfriend looked to the left, and the next thing I knew, he threw milk from his glass on her dress. It was a blue dress. My girlfriend was so shocked she froze. He started laughing, saying, "Gotcha." I was stunned. Then I asked the hell he did that for. I lashed out at him as my girlfriend rushed to clean up, and I called him obnoxious and mean because he shouldn't have done that. He said it was just messing with us, and my girlfriend should feel lucky for being served milk at a wedding. But my girlfriend was being too uptight and couldn't take a joke. She left looking angry and didn't respond to my calls. I was livid. After my argument with my brother-in-law, I left. The next day, I called him and my sister about what happened and told them I'm expecting him to pay $320 for the dress he ruined. He threw a fit, saying it was just a prank, and my sister said milk doesn't ruin a dress and said an apology should do it. But I said no and demanded he pay $320 after humiliating and getting my girlfriend wet and messy. My sister argued, saying I'm being overprotective of my girlfriend, but I hung up, telling them they had till Friday. Am I the a-hole? Added to add, my girlfriend doesn't work. Her parents paid for her dress, and so they're equally as upset as her, if not more. My sister said my girlfriend and her parents shouldn't be spending that much on a dress if they can't handle the possibility of it's being ruined by any chance. My girlfriend is 20 years old. I offered to get the dress cleaned, but she said she no longer wants it due to the bad memory attached to it, since she wore it for the first time that day. She suffers from anxiety and depression, so I get why she no longer feels comfortable keeping it. Not a day home. Visit him regularly and perform a costly prank at his expense each time until he relents, pays for the dress, and begs you to stop ruining his stuff. It will be hilarious. Oops, I dumped a beer on your PS5. Gotcha. A prank war with this kind of a-hole will never work, because his pranks are just malicious events. This is the kind of guy who won't think anything of pouring sugar in a gas tank and slashing tires. Trying to keep up with him will just cost Opie too much, mentally, emotionally, and financially. Better for Opie to let sister know he'll be there when she needs help to escape the marriage, and then go low contact/no contact. Not today, home. Throwing milk on someone isn't a prank. Brother-in-law is just an a-hole who gets off on upsetting people and humiliating them. Stand firm. If you marry anyone ever, I would strongly consider not inviting your sister and brother-in-law. Not today, home. Formal dresses cannot just be washed. I'd ask for payment for a dry clean to see if it works. The bigger issue is brother-in-law running around doing ignorant things like this. Super rude and inconsiderate, and destructive. Not today, home. This guy is obnoxiously toxic. Get your receipts in order. If he doesn't pay for a replacement, send him to small claims. I have no idea why everyone puts up with this guy's behavior, but he needs to start taking responsibility for his terror. These are not pranks. I'd also recommend going low contact/no contact after this. Next story. Am I the a-hole for backing out of attending my son's wedding because his brother isn't invited? I have two sons, Isaiah 22 and Daniel 24. They had a great childhood together, save for typical siblings disagreements, but nothing out of the ordinary. They grew up in a big family with loving parents and aunts and uncles and cousins on both sides. However, as they entered their teenage years, they started resenting each other for outside reasons because there was no issues at home. Daniel was seeing a young lady when he was 20 who was his high school sweetheart, even after school that he planned to get engaged to. But it never happened because Isaiah lied to her about Daniel stealing from her parents, and she and her parents believed him. Turned out Isaiah was the one who stole jewelry from Daniel's ex-girlfriend's parents' house and pinned it on Daniel. As a result, her parents filed a police report and Daniel suffered from the lie Isaiah told to get back at him for selling his bike that originally belonged to Daniel. They were both legally adults when this happened, and we were told to stay out of their conflict, but we couldn't help but get caught up in the middle. Eventually, the boys stopped seeing or talking to each other. Daniel lives in a rental apartment, while Isaiah is still in college, but both boys are in contact with me and the family. Daniel is getting married this month. He sent me, his dad, and everyone else in the family an invitation except for Isaiah. I called Daniel to ask him. I assumed he probably didn't send Isaiah an invitation, but expected him to accompany me and my husband. He told me no. He intended to not invite his brother because he doesn't want him at his wedding. I felt heavy because Isaiah already apologized and sought forgiveness and gave Daniel time and space to reconcile. But Daniel kept ignoring him, saying he wanted nothing to do with him. I explained how I felt he was being too harsh on his brother, and he told me to not pressure him about it and respect his decision. I didn't pressure him, but informed him that since Isaiah isn't invited, then I'm not coming to the wedding. Daniel threw a fit about how I was trying to corner him into inviting Isaiah, but I replied that I wasn't. I wasn't trying to pressure him or trying to change his mind, I was just letting him know. He lashed out, calling me unbelievable for making his wedding about Isaiah and not respecting his wishes. He added that I was selfish for putting Isaiah's feelings over his, and on his wedding no less. We argued. Then he hung up after telling me if I don't attend, then he'll never speak to me again. We haven't talked since then, but my husband agrees that Daniel is the one complicating things and not being graceful towards his brother who wants to share his happy day with him. So one son tried to ruin the other son's life with multiple lies, and you were pissed he wasn't invited to the wedding? You're the a-hole. OP this. It's as simple as it gets. You and your husband should stay out of their relationship. Just know this, OP. You are jeopardizing any chance of a relationship you could have with grandchildren if Daniel ends up having children. He won't forget that you sided with his brother who tried to ruin his life, but you insisted on having a relationship that Daniel simply could not do. You're the a-hole, OP. Seriously? What the heck? 100% this. You're the a-hole in all accounts, OP, and it frustrates me that you didn't possess the common sense to know this beforehand. But here we are. I guess that it serves as a helpful reminder to the rest of us of what not to do. So in that rather negative sense, I still appreciate how your post contributed to the overall discussion around morality. Isaiah is not owed and does not deserve Daniel's forgiveness. Neither do you for continually trying to pretend like what Daniel did was excusable. If you don't go to that wedding, you will never know your grandkids. I dearly hope the family Daniel's marrying into are good people, because you are not. Oh yeah, you're an a-hole in this, and so is your husband. Mostly because you're siding with a brother who quite literally committed a crime and used Danny as a scapegoat. It cut ties with him as well. So yes, you're a nice big ol' a-hole. You probably ruined your relationship with your son. At least you have a criminal in your corner. Congrats. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for ruining my brother's wedding? My 20 female brother Nate, 28 male, is going to get married to his fiancée, Emily, 32 female, in a week. I was extremely close to my brother growing up, and he's my favorite out of all my siblings. However, when he started dating Emily, we kinda grew apart, but we still talk often. Emily, on the other hand, we don't get along at all. She hasn't done anything to me. I haven't done anything to her. We just don't see eye to eye on things. They're having a child-free wedding. But in Emily's eyes, a child is anyone under 21 years old. I know, dumb rule. Originally, I wasn't allowed to be there for the ceremony or reception, but I told Nate how much it would hurt to not be there for his big day. So he ended up convincing Emily to let me stay for the ceremony. We had a family dinner earlier this week, and Emily brought up that she would like to have a daycare service for the children of her guests at the wedding. And somehow she mentioned that she would love for me and my boyfriend, 20 male, to look over the kids. My boyfriend and I love children. We're actually studying to become a teacher and pediatrician. We were on board with it until we heard that we'd be watching 40-ish kids for 6 hours but only get paid $50 each. We agreed that we'd do it for $150 each, but Emily insisted on her original offer. And then Nate got involved, saying he told Emily that we'd be happy to watch the children, and it would save them a lot of money and how it's too late for them to find a different sitter. The more I refused, the angrier Emily got. She proceeded to tell me that I was being a greedy, selfish brat, and that I should be paying her since she'd be giving me practice for my teaching career. And then she said if I don't do this, I will ruin her wedding and won't be welcome at the ceremony. At this point, the dinner was ruined. My boyfriend's uncomfortable, I'm pissed, and the entire restaurant is staring at our table because Emily's practically screaming. We paid for our food and went home. Now here's where I may be the a-hole. I honestly don't care about babysitting. In fact, I would probably do it for free. My entire family knows this, and that's why they're so mad at me right now. My phone has been blowing up all evening, telling me that I should want to do anything that will make my brother's wedding perfect, and I'm being a childish a-hole. Sure, it sucks I'll probably not be at the wedding, but I'm sick of Emily being a witch to me. I feel bad for putting Nate in this position, and I hope this doesn't ruin our relationship too much, but it is what it is. I know I'm kinda childish about this, however, I do not think I'm being an a-hole. So, what do you guys think? Am I the a-hole for ruining my brother's wedding and potentially our relationship? Not the a-hole. WTF? They don't want you to attend the wedding, but you're allowed to work it? If she thinks 20 is a child, tell her it's irresponsible to have a child in charge of 40 other children and decline. I'm being really stupid here, but if it's a child-free wedding, why are there 40 children there? Edit. Never mind. I found a comment from Opie saying her boyfriend would watch the 40 kids alone during the ceremony, then Opie would help the rest of the time. I've got to say, this sounds like a cluster duck in the making, regardless of what Opie does. So you, a 20-year-old, can't attend your brother's wedding because it's child-free, but you have to babysit 40 kids? Do it practically for free. Because Nate, who you're close to, told his fiancé you would without checking with you. And now your family's insisting you're ruining the wedding because you refused? One, Nate is an A. His fiancé is being an absolute brat to his sister and is doing nothing to stop it. If his wedding is ruined, they are the cause, not you. 2, it would appear that Nate is not as close to you as you think. 3, it's bad enough they voluntold you. How dare they plan your boyfriend's time for him too? 4, the fact that they're pushing despite your refusal is a sign they're even bigger a-hole than we initially thought. Don't back down, Opie. Begin as you mean to go along with Emily. If you give in now, you'll end up being the de facto doormat/sitter. Tell Nate you're sorry to miss his wedding, but you'll be there for his next. Not the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's affair baby's family to either come get the kid or I'm calling CPS? My female 53, soon-to-be ex-husband Roger 47, whom I forgave for his affair, came home with a baby 4 months ago. His girlfriend, 22, could not handle it anymore and brought the baby to him at work and left. To the best of his knowledge, she is in Spain now. I allowed him to stay so long as I didn't have to do anything. Anything. Well, about a month ago, Roger had a heart attack. It didn't kill him, more's the pity, but he is very weak and incapable of doing anything for himself. Since he isn't up and about, he cannot care for his child. He also cannot drop off and pick up his son at daycare. I have been helping, but I'm done. My kids are full grown. I shouldn't be having grandkids anytime soon. I do not have any desire to care for a baby. I told Roger that I want a divorce, and I contacted the mother's parents. I know the father through friends. I said they had until Friday to come get their grandchild, or I was calling Child Protective Services. They just left with a baby, but they scolded me for being so cold towards a baby that had done me no harm. I view that child differently. Roger is recovering and I will be moving out. The house is in his name, but I have never contributed to it. I have the equivalent of 22 years of rent and interest put away. And as per our prenup, my savings are my own. I work, and I don't need anything out of this marriage except myself. My kids tried telling me to stay and help their father. I said that they were welcome to come over and help him with cleaning himself and the baby. Both declined what I felt was a fair offer. I do not feel that I'm acting badly. However, Roger, our children, his child's family, and a few mutual friends think I am. Perhaps writing this out and seeing the responses will give me clarity. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. The child was not your responsibility. Yes, it was innocent, but you're literally not responsible for raising it. You should have divorced Roger long ago. And God forbid something happens. I literally cannot make any decisions regarding medical care or anything. Not a-hole. If you're the only one dealing with this mess Roger created, nobody gets a say but you. Your kids don't want to help. Roger can't help. This child isn't your problem nor responsibility, unless you make the child your problem or responsibility. The child may be innocent, but you are too.
You didn't ask Roger to cheat on you and get another woman pregnant. You didn't ask to take care of an affair baby. Good point. The baby is completely innocent, but so is Opie, and she didn't mistreat the baby. She just refused to take care of it. Better to hand him off to his family than keep him there when you're indifferent to him. Not a-hole. Basically, everybody is trying to dump their responsibility on you. The baby should be with family. You're not cold to not want to care. It's weird they wouldn't want to take the kid in anyway. Poor child. Your grown kids can take care of their dad. When he cheated, your relationship ended, and he's not your problem anymore. The grown kids can also take their half-brother in. Also, they're the ones blood related to the baby, not her. Absolutely no obligation there either. If my dad cheated on my mom and was left with a baby, I'd cut ties too. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter I was not going to walk her down the aisle or attend her wedding after she went years of no contact with me? I, 45 male, divorced my ex-wife, 45 female, many years ago after she had an affair. She's now married to her affair partner. We also had a daughter who was very rebellious. She pretty much hated me and said her mom deserved much better than me. Yes, for a year, we did struggle financially because money was tight. When her mom got with her affair partner, my daughter, who was 14 at the time, said many horrible things, like how the affair was exactly what I deserved, and a lot of stuff like it. Regardless, I understood my daughter was going through her teenage rebellious phase, so I just accepted those words. However, my daughter always said that she would prove she would succeed in life without me, and after graduating high school, she pretty much went no contact with me. I tried to contact her, but she blocked my number. It hurt me a lot. Well, I moved on, because there was nothing much else I could do. I moved states to where my sister lives, focused on my career, and I'm financially well off now. I am single by choice, and I'm enjoying my life so far. It's fun to hang out with friends. My family and I have a peace of mind now. A couple weeks ago, my daughter called me. It was the first time in years we had spoken, and I could sense she was nervous. I told her I was all right, and she broke down in tears. She apologized for everything and we caught up on life. She told me she really wished she could make up how terribly she had behaved in her childhood, but I told her it was okay and everyone goes through a tough phase in childhood. She then told me that she was getting married next year and that it would mean the world to her if I could walk her down the aisle and be there at her wedding. However, where I was at in my life, I just didn't have the emotional bandwidth to add my daughter in my life again, after she went years of no contact with me. So I told her up front that I will always love her, but that I would not attend her wedding or walk her down the aisle. I told her she would always be welcome in my house, but that I have my own life now, and emotionally, it was hard for me to feel much for her. She broke down in tears again and apologized again how everything that happened, and I told her it was all right, and that there was no reason to apologize. We then spoke some more. Am I the a-hole? Not a-hole. If she's sincere, she'll keep reaching out. If it was for show or for money, she will leave you again. See where you're at in a year and attend if you feel she's sincere. Wonder where stepdad is in all this. Probably wanting someone else to pay for the wedding. Not a-hole. As the saying goes, trust takes years to build and seconds to destroy, or something along those lines. The fact that she wanted to reconcile is one thing. I don't think you're wrong for saying what you said. She might actually show true remorse, or something occurred that made her feel that way. Either way, you're not wrong for your feelings. In my native language, that saying goes as, trust comes by foot and leaves by horse. Keep talking to her. Whether or not you walk her down the aisle, you might still find a way back into each other's lives. Just keep those lines of communication open. Waiting until after the wedding would surely clarify exactly what the daughter wants, while insulating Opie from further hurt. Years left to reconnect, so why hurry? Why put on a show after being treated so poorly? Waiting is far more pragmatic, and if there's ulterior motives like money, the truth will out sooner. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my boyfriend and his daughter out because of how his daughter acts when she's on her period? My boyfriend of 2 years has an 11-year-old daughter that just started her first ever menstrual cycle 3 days ago. He has full custody of her, and they started making transitions to move in with me and my 8-year-old son about 2 weeks ago. Up until this point, everything was going fairly well. The kids got along and I thought Diane was a nice kid. Anyways, she walks out of her bedroom 3 days ago and tells me she thinks she started her period and was asking me the general questions on how to wear a pad, what she can/can't do, etc. All is well. I let her stay home from school after calling my boyfriend at work to confirm plans and give him the rundown. She was crampy. I work from home, so it was no issue. All day she interrupted my business calls to talk about her period. It was annoying, but I just dealt with it because it's her first menstrual, so obviously there's going to be a lot of questions. This wasn't even a problem. It was what followed it. She was in a great mood all day, but as soon as my boyfriend and my son got home from work, my home turned into a war zone. My son asked if she wanted to play with him and she screamed in his face, "I'm on my period," and literally slammed him out of her doorway. He went flying, hit the wall, bruised his shoulder, and hit his head off the door frame. My boyfriend went to talk to her and she starts crying. "I'm on my period. I don't want him near me." He gave her a pass for her behavior, which already ticked me off. The next day we planned a beach day, like a week ago planned it. Diane starts flipping out to a point of full tantrum, screaming at me and my boyfriend, telling us that no, we would not still be going to the beach because she's on her period and she can't swim, and since she can't, none of us can. And she doesn't care if that bothers us. My boyfriend cancels the trip. Or tried. I told him I was still bringing my kid regardless. We get back home at 3 p.m. When I left, I had a pot of chili in the slow cooker for dinner. I find half the pot gone. Diane had been eating out of the slow cooker. My boyfriend told me that Diane said the only thing she wanted was chili, and that since she was on her period, he had to let her. He listened to her. There wasn't enough to feed everyone now. We sent the kids to bed at 8 p.m. She comes out at 9, telling her father that she needed ice cream or she was going to snap. He originally said no. She starts tweaking out, crying, screaming, wakes up my son. He ends up going and getting her the freaking ice cream instead of being a parent and nipping that nonsense in the bud. Then this morning, my boyfriend tells her she can stay home from school again because she's still on her period. I tell him no. I'm working today and she interrupted me all day on my last work day. She starts flipping out, screaming at me that I'm not doing anything to make her comfortable when that's what she needs right now. My boyfriend sides with her. It's her first period. We need to learn to navigate it. I told him again that she was not staying here today. He gets angry with me and says I'm making his life harder than it has to be. His kid is still screaming at me. So I snapped and told them to pack all their stuff and leave, and that I was freaking done. Said that I'm glad she started her period so soon into moving in so that I could get a proper assessment of how it would be full-time. And I would be damned if I put up with this nonsense every month. They both immediately calm down. She starts crying, saying she was just trying to make me understand. He's telling me I'm being ridiculous. I stood firm, however, and told them to get out. They're now gone and my house is peaceful. I don't want them back here. My boyfriend has been blowing my phone up since, telling me this is just a bump in the road. But I have never been so disgusted by anyone in my entire life. Am I the a-hole for not letting them return and telling him I'm done? I did speak to her about her aggression yesterday. I told her it wasn't okay to put her hands on people, to scream in my face, to demand we cater to her and break things. She says, I'm on my period. Nothing I do right now can be held against me because I have no control. Which is enough to prove to me that she does have control. She's using this as an excuse. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. I think this is not just her period, but signs of a much bigger problem, where she's manipulative AF and your boyfriend always gives in to her when she acts badly instead of being a parent and putting a stop to the behavior. And he is also showing you that he will always take her side over you no matter how bad her behavior is. She's also going to bully your son. He deserves to have a peaceful and safe home and not to have to live with a bully. Living with them will be hell if you let them stay. You have the opportunity in this moment to dodge the bullet. Not the a-hole, and I agree. This behavior seems wholesale manipulative. Hormonal or not, physically body checking your son and then claiming you can't hold me accountable because of a bodily function is not okay and needs to be stamped out yesterday. Also note that when she realized you were serious about consequences, she immediately realized she'd gone too far and tried to backtrack while blaming you with, I'm just trying to make you understand. Out of curiosity, where could she have seen this type of behavior? Because honestly, this sounds like she saw it in some movie or whatever and it's exaggerating hard. Not a-hole for needing space, but please get your boyfriend to figure out if she's actually nuts. or just acts like this because she thinks that's how girls on their period should act. Literally anywhere, none of her friends have started, but her dad gives her a free range of YouTube and TikTok. She's not allowed to post anything, but she can view whatever she wants. I've tried talking to him about that. I don't think kids should be in social media, but he was never receptive. Free range of YouTube and TikTok. Well, problem identified. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife I would rather have her sister live in our house than her? I, 35 male, and my wife, 35 female, have been married for 6 years. Some background. 7 months ago, my wife gave birth to our daughter. I'll call her Sadie. Ever since my wife gave birth, she has been getting increasingly rude and refuses to do any work around the house and says she's still healing from giving birth, even though she always goes out with her friends. 3 months ago, my wife's sister Hannah, 25 female, called my wife and asked her if she could temporarily move in with us. She lived in a crappy apartment building, and tenants recently had to leave due to the unsafe conditions. Hannah didn't have enough to get another place right away, hence her asking. My wife seemed very eager to let Hannah move in, despite always claiming they never get along. They came to the agreement that she would help with Sadie in exchange for staying with us rent-free so she could save up for a deposit on a proper apartment. Everything was fine at first. Hannah has ADHD and took a week to adjust to living with us. During that week, she did all the chores my wife has been neglecting without us asking her. I tried to tell her she didn't have to do all of them, but my wife waved me off and said Hannah's ADHD makes her want to do it. Hannah backed her up. After she cleaned something, my wife would thank Hannah a lot. I thanked her as well, but my wife did it constantly, which seemed strange to me. My wife dismissed my questions and said it was normal to do with people with ADHD. Since then, my wife has pushed all childcare and any household chores I don't do onto Hannah. She has also been increasingly rude to Hannah and yelling at her if she makes a mistake on the first try of doing something. I tried to intervene when I was at home, but my wife would accuse me of wanting to let Hannah lay around the house being lazy because she was retarded. She and I got into a huge fight about her using that word to describe Hannah and didn't speak for a few days. My breaking point came when I found out my wife had been making Hannah pay her rent and buy baby supplies. I pay all the bills, and the money Hannah had been giving my wife was not going towards the house. My wife was using it to go out with her friends. My wife also made Hannah pay for food. I usually give my wife the money for food, and she bought snacks for herself with Hannah's contribution. I had another fight with my wife, where she said Hannah was lazy, and if she didn't like her rules, then Hannah could sleep on the street and get out of her house. That's when I told my wife it's my house, as she doesn't pay any bills, and at this point doesn't do anything but be as lazy as she accuses Hannah of being. And I would rather live with Hannah. My wife got quiet and has been refusing to talk to me or Hannah for the past few days, and I'm starting to think I crossed a line. Am I the a-hole? Added to add, I have no romantic/sexual feelings for Hannah. Even if I did, Hannah's lesbian. And even if she weren't, I would not have taken advantage of her by making a move on her while she's dependent on me for housing. Please stop with a comment suggesting I marry Hannah. Added to, she was cleared for PPD a few months ago, but due to comments, I will discuss having her screened again. While that was not a nice thing to say, your wife is a horrible person. So horrible that it makes me question whether this is fake. I wish it were. I feel bad for what I said, as it was said in the heat of the moment, but I don't like how she's been treating her sister. It's a huge turnaround from how things were initially, and I don't know why. Your wife is a horrible bully and user, abusing her sister for money and labor. If you don't do anything about it, you're condoning it. Be a responsible person. Do you understand what a huge red flag it is that your wife lied to you and Hannah when she took Hannah's money and kept it for herself? Like, huge. No wonder they never got along. That's because your wife is a twat. Apparently, she is totally comfortable lying to your face, and Hannah's. And she has no problem pretending not to be married. You should grant her that wish. Lying about money is one of the #1 reasons people separate. Not a-hole. Your wife is stealing from you and Hannah. It shows a dishonest character, and people don't tend to be dishonest in only one aspect of their life. I feel like if you start poking around, you're going to find out a lot of surprises about your wife. Yep, she is definitely dishonest. Plus, to add to what you stated, 7 months later and she's still healing and unable to do household chores? What a crock. Unless there was some major surgery related to the birth, which I am sure OP would have mentioned if there was, then there is no reason why she can't do tasks around the house 7 months later. She is lazy and a liar.